Namaskar, dear learners and listeners. I am Anita Devraj, and today I am going to discuss about rise of imperialism and colonialism in the countries of Asia and Africa. In the last session, you became familiar about the Industrial Revolution and how it spread to the countries of the West. But by the turn of the 19th century, most of the European countries were industrialized. These countries needed constant supply of raw materials and a ready market for selling the furnished goods. So, they began to extend control over areas which were not industrialized. The capitalists too needed new places and new industries to invest their surplus capital, since these needs could not be fulfilled in their own countries or in neighboring countries. This practice of extending control or rule over the political and economic life of another country is known as imperialism. This may be done through military or other means. Now, colonialism meant to acquire colonies and making them dependent by conquest or other means. It was a need for raw materials, markets and places for investment of capital, which prompted the imperial nations to conquer lands outside their own country. The main feature of imperialism was economic domination of colonies by an imperial nation through military conquest, political rule or by any other method. The wealth and resources were drained out from the colonies to the imperial countries. The interest of the colonies was subjected to the interest of the imperial country. The country which conquers another land is known as the imperial country, while the conquered land is known as a colony. By the end of the 19th century, almost all countries of Asia and Africa were under the control of one or the other European nation. Now, why do you think these industrialized countries chose Asia and Africa to extend their domination? This was because these countries were rich in resources, but were politically and militarily weak and industrially backward. Unfortunately, they were too far and distant. Without good means of communication, no countries would be able to make profit from them. The growth of imperialism coincided with the growth of transport and communication. Good roads, steamships, railways and canals were being built by industrialized nations in their own countries and also in the colonies. Easy transportation of goods to and from the colonies made things easier for these countries. Troops could also be sent easily to these colonies. With the development of telegraph and telephone, messages could be sent easily. Almost every country now came within the easy reach of imperial countries. Extreme nationalism became a major force in the extension of imperialism. For pride, for prestige and glory, some countries like Italy and Germany conquered lands belonging to others. By this time, the Europeans, who had developed a feeling of racial superiority, considered the people of Asia and Africa as backward. According to them, it was the white man's burden to civilize the backward people. So, it was their duty to conquer these countries, spread Christianity and bring enlightenment to them. This feeling provided a moral justification for the conquests of these land. This was not difficult, as adventurers and explorers played a significant role in inciting a desire among Europeans for conquering lands. They brought back valuable information about the lands they discovered and described the wealth and resources they saw in these remote lands. Do you remember reading the names of many explorers such as Christopher Columbus, Vasco da Gama and Ferdinand Magellan? Do you know that once upon a time, Africa was known as the Dark Continent? Very little information was available about this continent. The missionaries and the explorers were the first to venture into the interiors. There they discovered an immense treasure of ivory, gold, diamond, timber, and people who could be made slaves. Africa also had weak political systems, a backward economy and society, as well as weak armies. A competition started amongst the European nations to gain power and prestige, as well as raw materials and markets for their manufactured goods. The Europeans, on the other hand, had technologically advanced weapons which helped in their conquests. Till 1875, European possessions in Africa were limited to some forts and trading posts along the coast and a few small colonies. But between 1880 and 1910, the whole of Africa was divided up amongst the Europeans. All important decisions related to Africa and its people were taken on the conference tables of London, Paris, Lisbon, and other European capitals for the next 50 years. France acquired a huge empire in North and West Africa. Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, Ivory Coast, Dahomey, Mali, and other areas in West Africa came under the French rule. Britain ruled Zambia, Sierra Leone, Gold Coast, Nigeria, South Africa, Rhodesia, Uganda, Kenya, Egypt, Sudan, Eritrea, parts of Somaliland, and Libya. Germany ruled over Southwest Africa, Tanzania, Togoland, Cameroon, until Germany was defeated in World War I. By the time the war started in 1914, only two independent countries were left in Africa, Liberia and Ethiopia. But Ethiopia was taken over by Italy in 1935. An interesting feature about imperialism was the slave trade in Africa. The Europeans started importing slaves from Africa to work on the plantations in their colonies in America. There was a regular slave market in Lisbon, the capital of Portugal. Between 1500 and 1800, nearly 15 million Africans were captured and sold as slaves. Now, let us do some activities also. Supposing a person is discriminated and looked down upon based on his color, caste, or race or region, we find many incidents of verbal and physical abuse both in India and abroad regarding the same. Now, do you think we are acting sensitively and maturely when we take part in such acts? How would the other person feel? Suggest some measures that you can take to stop this in future. Now, let us see about imperialism in Asia. As in Africa, so in Asia, the Europeans started colonizing here also. The British and the French did not like the prosperous trade carried on by Portugal and Holland, whom they ultimately threw out from India. Soon, the English and the French companies made settlements here. In 1763, the British ended the French influence in India and established their own control. You will read more about this British rule in India in the coming lessons and in the coming videos. Countries like Japan and China refused to accept the Western culture and way of life because of their belief in their traditional ways. The Boxer Rebellion and the Opium War gave the power to the industrialized countries to get involved in China. Gradually, they accepted industrialization and Western influence. Chinese goods were in great demand in European countries, but there was no demand for European goods in China. This one-sided trade was not profitable at all for the European merchants. So, what did they do? They started smuggling opium to China to demoralize the Chinese youth and exchange Chinese goods. This led to the First Opium War between China and Britain, in which China was easily defeated and Britain gained many concessions for herself. She succeeded in getting all 5 ports of China opened for British traders. The Chinese government could not impose any tariff on foreign goods. They could not carry out any trial against British subjects. In Chinese courts, the islands of Hong Kong were handed over to Britain. The Second Opium War was fought to revenge against the insult of British flag and the murder of a French missionary. China was defeated by the 2 European powers and was forced to concede extraterritorial rights. The Boxers' Rebellion was an organized terror against the Chinese missionaries and exploitation of China after the division of China into spheres of influence. Chinese youth tortured foreign nationals with their fists. They had the secret support of the royal court. Now let us look at Japan. The Meiji Restoration began in 1868 with an era of enlightened rule which transformed Japan from a closed feudal society to the first industrial nation. She had little natural resources of her own and needed both overseas markets and resources of raw materials. In 1871, a group of Japanese politicians toured Europe and US. Japan framed a state-led industrialization policy. In 1877, the Bank of Japan was founded. Many steel and textile factories were set up. Education was popularized and Japanese students were sent to study in the West. By the year 1905, under the slogan of "Enrich the country, strengthen the military," Japan rose as a formidable industrial and military nation. She was successful in conquering Formosa, southern Sakhalin, Korea, Manchuria, Indonesia, Burma, Malaya, and the Philippines. Now, let us see what was imperialism doing in South and Southeast Africa. Now, let us see imperialism in South and Southeast Asia. South and Southeast Asia includes Nepal, Burma, Sri Lanka, Malaya, Indonesia, Indochina, Thailand, Indo-Philippines. Even before the rise of the new imperialism, many of these countries were already dominated by the Europeans. Sri Lanka was occupied by the Portuguese, then by the Dutch, and later by the British. England introduced tea and rubber plantations, which came to form 7/8 of Sri Lanka's exports. Other countries of Southeast Asia also suffered under imperialism. French troops attacked Vietnam, claiming that they were protecting the Christians of Indochina. Gradually, Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia were added to the French colonial empire. The British added Burma and the port of Singapore to gain control over the Malayan states. Thailand or Siam remained an independent state even though it was sandwiched between the French conquest in Indochina and the British in Burma. Now, let us see what was the impact of imperialism. Some of the positive effects of imperialism on the colonies were the introduction of transportation and communication like railway lines, canals, telegraphs, and telephones. It also led to the growth of political consciousness and the feeling of nationalism in the colonies. It also led to development in modern education and science after they gained their independence. Imperialism had a disastrous effect on the colonies. The indigenous industries were ruined and the natural resources ruthlessly exploited. China was divided into spheres of influence and thrown open to international trade. The whole of Africa, except for Liberia and Ethiopia, was divided amongst the European nations. A large number of Africans were sold as slaves. In South Africa, the white European community ill-treated the black on the basis of their dark skin. This is called racial discrimination or apartheid, which was the worst impact of imperialism on the countries of Africa. The negative impact of imperialism outweighs its positive one as it drained both the Asian and African countries of their wealth, raw materials, their industrial goods, thereby destroying the economy of these colonies. Their policy of racial discrimination made the people lose their self-respect as well as their confidence. You will of course be reading more about this in the coming lessons on India. In India, the Europeans came as traders but became rulers. They destroyed a prosperous country. India, which was an exporter of textile, became a buyer of finished goods and exporter of raw materials. Besides, heavy taxation led to poverty of the masses. The 20th century saw more specific discoveries and inventions than any other period in human history. Starting with the steam-powered ships, it ended with human visit to space, moon landings, and of course, the network of computers. The world shrunk with instant communication and speedy transport. Unfortunately, the whole world was affected by imperialist rivalries and economic motives. This created a tension among the European countries, United States and Japan, which entangled them into two world wars, about which we will be discussing in another episode. Thank you very much for listening to this particular section.
पच्चीस साल का लंबा सफर और लाखों लोगों के चेहरों पर खिलती मुस्कान, गर्व और गरिमा से जीने की प्रेरणा देती मुस्कान, आत्मसम्मान और विश्वास से पैदा हुई मुस्कान। इन खिलते चेहरों पर ये मुस्कान आई है शिक्षा के जरिए। ये मुस्कान आई है नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग यानी NIOS के जरिए। नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग या राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान, इस संस्थान का एक बड़ा उद्देश्य है आम आदमियों के जीवन को बेहतर बनाना। ऐसे लोग जिनके लिए शिक्षा एक दूर का सपना है, या वे बच्चे जो परिवार की रोजी रोटी कमाने के लिए बीच में ही स्कूल छोड़ने पर मजबूर हो जाते हैं। NIOS ऐसे बच्चों और बड़ों को दोबारा शिक्षा से जुड़ने का मौका मुहैया कराता है ताकि वे एक बेहतर जीवन जी सकें। 1989 में स्थापना के बाद NIOS ने देश के लाखों बच्चों और वयस्कों को बेहतर शिक्षा से जोड़ा है। इनमें हर उम्र, हर पृष्ठभूमि, हर जाति, हर मजहब और हर क्षेत्र के लड़के लड़कियां, महिलाएं और पुरुष शामिल हैं। बढ़ई से लेकर पायलट, डॉक्टर, इंजीनियर, बेकर और दर्जी तक NIOS कोशिश कर रहा है सबको शिक्षित और सशक्त बनाने की, चाहे वो असम के दूर दराज इलाके में रहने वाला हो या फिर मुंबई जैसे महानगर का। NIOS ने अपनी मौजूदगी हर जगह दर्ज कराई है। NIOS ने शिक्षा की परंपरागत सोच को ही बदल दिया है। वो पढ़िए जो हम पढ़ाते हैं की जगह NIOS की नई सोच है, हम वो पढ़ाते हैं जो आप पढ़ना चाहते हैं। इस नई सोच ने लोगों को आगे बढ़ने और NIOS के साथ जुड़ने के लिए प्रोत्साहित किया है। शिक्षा उपलब्ध कराने के मामले में NIOS किसी सीमा को नहीं मानता, उम्र की सीमा को भी नहीं। चंडीगढ़ के गणेश के लिए भी NIOS एक वरदान साबित हुआ। NIOS शारीरिक रूप से अक्षम बच्चों को भी बेहतर शिक्षा मुहैया कराने के लिए पूरी तरह प्रतिबद्ध है। ऐसे बच्चों के लिए शिक्षा न केवल रोजगार के द्वार खोलती है, बल्कि उन्हें आत्मविश्वास और गर्व के साथ जीना भी सिखाती है। NIOS खेल के इन सितारों को उनकी सुविधा और समय के अनुसार बेहतर शिक्षा उपलब्ध कराता है। मेरी कॉम, सोमदेव देवर्मन, देविका रेबेका पल्लिकल, अरमान इब्राहिम, प्रद्युमन प्रकाश और अमयजोत सिंह। NIOS सीमा पर खड़े उन प्रहरियों को भी शिक्षा से लाभान्वित करता है जो देश की सुरक्षा के लिए अपनी जान की बाजी लगाने से भी नहीं चूकते। सच तो ये है कि NIOS की पहुंच हर ओर रहती है, चाहे वो दूर दराज के आदिवासी हो या जेल की कोठरी में बंद कैदी या फिर ग्रामीण और शहरी क्षेत्रों के गरीब निवासी। देश में कहीं भी कोई भी व्यक्ति, स्त्री, पुरुष, लड़का, लड़की, अमीर, गरीब शिक्षा से वंचित न रहे। राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान का यही मिशन है।
राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान पूरे देश में शिक्षा के साथ साथ कौशल विकास के क्षेत्र में बहुत सारे कोर्सेज दे रहा है। लगभग 100 से ज़्यादा कोर्सेज हैं। हम दूर दराज के गांव में अपने संस्थान बनाते हैं और वहाँ के बच्चों को, वहाँ के बच्चियों को, वहाँ के वयस्कों को हुनर के क्षेत्र में शिक्षा पहुँचाते हैं। आपको जानकर खुशी होगी कि अब हम आर्ट, साइंस, कॉमर्स जिन क्षेत्रों में 12वीं का सर्टिफिकेट दिया जाता रहा है, अब हम हुनर के क्षेत्र में, वोकेशनल एरिया में भी 10वीं और 12वीं का सर्टिफिकेशन करेंगे। तो वो बच्चे जो कृषि से जुड़े हुए हैं, कारपेंट्री से जुड़े हुए हैं या दूसरे क्षेत्रों से जुड़े हुए हैं, वो अपने ही क्षेत्र में काम करेंगे, सीखेंगे, हुनर पैदा करेंगे अपने में और सर्टिफाइड भी होंगे कि वो सर्टिफाइड कृषक हैं, खेतिहर हैं। तो आज तक जो हमारे देश में ये सोच रही है कि आप 12वीं पास तभी कहे जाएंगे जब भूगोल, अर्थशास्त्र, भौतिकी ये पढ़ेंगे, अब ये समय बदल गया है। ITI में जितने बच्चे पढ़ते हैं, लगभग 18 लाख बच्चे हर साल दाखिला लेते हैं। अब हम उनको सर्टिफिकेशन करेंगे।
NIOS अपने छात्रों को माध्यमिक स्तर पर 26 और उच्च माध्यमिक स्तर पर 19 विषयों का विकल्प देता है। पढ़ाई किस माध्यम से करनी है, इसमें भी आपको लचीलापन मिलेगा। माध्यमिक स्तर पर ही 7 भाषाओं के अलग अलग माध्यमों का विकल्प मौजूद है। शैक्षणिक कार्यक्रमों के अलावा 86 वोकेशनल शिक्षा कार्यक्रम भी उपलब्ध हैं, जो छात्रों को कामकाजी दुनिया के लिए तैयार करते हैं। वोकेशनल प्रशिक्षण को अधिक सुदृढ़ बनाने के लिए NIOS ने ITDC, सिस्को, इंडियन मेडिकल एसोसिएशन जैसे कई सरकारी और गैर सरकारी संस्थानों के साथ भागीदारी स्थापित की है। आज लाखों छात्रों के लिए अपनी पसंद का स्कूल है राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान यानी नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग। NIOS ने एक लंबा सफर तय किया है, लेकिन मंजिल अभी दूर है। निरंतर विकास और नवीनीकरण के लिए NIOS सदैव प्रतिबद्ध है। शिक्षा का उद्देश्य महज रोजगार जुटाना ही नहीं है, बल्कि स्वयं को सशक्त बनाना भी है। NIOS लाखों छात्रों के लिए यही आत्मसम्मान दिलाने में जुटा है। लाखों लोगों के लिए एक आशा और उम्मीद है। नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग। शिक्षा सबके लिए, कहीं भी, कभी भी।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने, हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
अपना जीवन स्वयं बने हम, अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो,
संसाधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े वे विषय